tall letters?
And to keep it a buck.
How many? What's tall letters?
You know what? KHTE.
What's it called?
KHTE.
Okay. And what's on the dial?
96.5 the box.
You're telling me, you guys are effing. You're telling me that this only goes.
It's 10,500 watts.
Man, I can't believe. Sorry, do you know that Shreveport? You know that Shreveport and Texarkana share a radio?
Yes, I do.
It's hard.
I met the guy who owns it.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to believe that Little Rock, which is bigger than both of those places, probably combined. Like, come on, man. Like, maybe. Look, man, I'm gonna just talk it up, and maybe you don't understand how far radio is. Like, again, that's why I said you acting like Little Rock is whole Arkansas. Goddamn, you acting like this. Prescott, Arkansas. This shit is crazy. Now I know that state, man, is recessive, full of genetically impaired people. You feel me? And they ain't hearing shit on the state like I want to, man. But come on, Little Rock, stop acting like Little Rock wasn't getting music. Like we literally put a whole American life, man.
So while you were gone, I read word for word, without commenting, without interpretation, 839 through 846. 846, I did just the first three lines, and we didn't cover the other text underneath it yet. And then McZed brought up 847 without realizing it's there.
Yeah, it's you know, so he's saying Takia because he's using he's like, well, Bart, here you are criticizing the Muslims, and in one sense telling them, this is my assumption of what he's trying to explain to me because of our prior conversations. And he's saying, well, and then you're bringing them this verse stating that, you know, they do accept their salvation, but it's only through the church.
Right.
So then what are we as Catholics saying? They must submit to the church, along with, you know, all of the other things. So you know, for example, if a person that was part of McZed's culture came into our church and was like, all right, let me find salvation, we would then tell him, well, you don't need those tassels anymore. You can cut your hair because now you are saved through Christ. That's going to be like us putting our condition on him, right? We're gonna say, no, forget all these physical things. Now it's spiritual. Now it's your heart. You realize that we're not. Yeah. That's not what the Catholic. That's what we're saying through the church, right?
Right, but Megatron, we're not telling him he has to cut his hair. We're just saying he doesn't have to do it. So he's still free to do it, right?
Well, he is still free to do it, but we're gonna tell him that he doesn't need that to be.
Yeah, he doesn't need it, right?
Yeah. So we would say no. You know, we would say you're anchored by this physical sort of ritual. We would tell him that he's doing works before faith. Yeah. You see the language? Yeah. So,
absolutely. How would you know? I know of Christians that keep kosher, for instance.
Oh, there's a lot of Christians that do that. I think it's because there's still scripture that says even after the Messiah. Yeah, even after the Messiah comes, that these laws would still remain. There is a lot of verses that say that. Yeah. So it's it's a catch-22. But the thing is that he preached to the Gentiles, so we would be considered Gentile, right? But first the Jew, then the Gentile. So the laws remain for the Jew, unless we're willing to become Jew. Then we're not Christian anymore. Then we're keeping Torah laws.
Right. So I want to give McZed his day in glory and read 847 because he predicted it. He had an epiphany. This affirmation is not aimed at those who, through no fault of their own, do not know Christ and his church. Those who, through no fault of their own, do not know the gospel or Christ or of his church, but who nevertheless seek God with a sincere heart and moved by grace, try in their actions to do his will as they know it through the dictates of their conscience. These two may achieve eternal salvation. So I think
added a huge caveat.
explain. What's that?
You added a huge caveat. Well, not you.
Yeah, there are caveats there. Yeah.
Okay, that's only through no fault of their own. That would include most Jews today.
Well, I guess it sort of depends on what is meant by not knowing Christ through no fault of your own.
Yeah, I was wondering how they would define that.
Yeah. So I think there's some wiggle room there. And then 848 says, although in ways known to himself, God can lead those who, through no fault of their own, are ignorant of the gospel to that faith with which it is impossible to please him. The church still has the obligation and also the sacred right to evangelize all men. So that explains the attempts to proselytize, I guess.
I guess because without that, you would assume it's better not to proselytize.
Yeah, or at least it's not necessary. Whereas this is it literally says that without that faith, it's impossible to please God. So, yeah, if you have that knowledge, I guess you would want to share it with others, which is very different from the Jewish position. Judaism does not.
That one is very similar, except for the proselytize part. But
the Jews do not claim exclusivity to salvation.
No, but that passage, that one that you just read, if someone does not know the message through no fault of their own and they try to do good, then they will be saved.
Oh, right. But what they don't claim is that it's through a communion with Judaism or the Jewish faith or God. Like they openly acknowledge that there can be a path for others to the world.
The entire model is totally different. It's a personal relationship. Even if you are in communion, it depends on your personal relationship. The works, like seen by your works, is the point of it all. So this idea.
By your faith, though. Seen by the works by your faith.
Judaism won't argue with that. If you're just doing the motions and not having any meaning behind it, then now you can't judge someone because you don't know their thoughts behind it. But God will judge them, and that'll have very little to no benefit.
Well, that's what the Catholics
Well, we're saying Christ will redeem them, and then they will be judged.
Yeah, the debate isn't like whether or not the thoughts are the most important. Both sides agree that the thoughts are important. The question is whether or not, if the thoughts are important, do the actions matter not at all then?
So, and the crux of that dispute is if it's a personal relationship or part of a communion. So if it's a personal relationship, then yes, actions get you to have better thoughts. That's like today in psychology very proven.
Yeah, but there's a division amongst Christians, right, where some say that works, I don't know how they phrase it, but that, you're not saved through works, and others think that there's some sort of...
Judaism doesn't really argue with that. Judaism just says that works gets you to a better faith.
No, I didn't say Jews. I'm saying amongst Christians.
Yeah, but all Christians agree that there's some type of punishment transfer, which just doesn't fit into the Jewish model at all. Doesn't make any sense at all. Jewish model. Like you can't transfer the crucifixion and resurrection.
Oh, okay.
It's like a transfer of your punishment. It doesn't make any sense in the Jewish model. It doesn't work. It doesn't even know how to start.
So are you trying to suggest that Judaism got it right?
And
I did not what I just said. I mean, if that's your question, obviously.
No. You're out. I think what's going on here is that after the 1500 years, they're going to turn, the Protestants turn around. Well, now you are the Catholic Church. You're the Pharisee now. You're making us do these works, these sort of sacraments to then be saved, right? And then that this is where kind of like now the Catholic Church is. Now the Protestants are, doing what this was doing with the Pharisees, calling us the Pharisees.
Yeah, that's
now it's
happening
works-based. Now it's works-based, right?
Oh, but that's happening now, right? You've got a lot of Protestants denounce the church.
That's that's what I'm trying to tell you, that that's the way they're looking at it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I've been in rooms in Clubhouse where Protestants like thoroughly denounce and trash the Catholic Church, like with it.
Yeah, but we're saying to them, like, we're saying, all right, well, we venerate the saints, okay? We're taking communion every time we go to church. We venerate Mary.
Well, they don't accept.
We have relics. We have relics in the churches.
Yeah.
We're holding to these small, minute things that they're holding to us to be like something so, and this is all biblical. Like, I could give you the verses.
Oh yeah.
Venerating the saints.
I can tell you the three things I hear from Protestants the most when they object to Catholicism. You can
we're open to it, though. We're open to the objection, and Christianity itself is designed to have a lane for atheism. You know, we're open to the ideas, the secular view, which I think is from the very start of even Jerusalem. Like,
are you open to constructive criticism?
We're open to really ugly bloodbaths. Like said, they come and they just desecrate Christ.
I mean, your Christian Protestant brothers have some notes.
They do,
it's 100% constructive. Right? Under your model, they're 100% trying to help and proselytize, like, constructive criticism, right? You don't have to just say they're all atheists that are non-believers rejecting all of your teachings. That'd be insane.
Yeah. We would use them as research and development.
I can tell you the three things that the Protestants object to the most. 1, transubstantiation. 2, the Immaculate Conception. And 3, the infallibility of the Pope.
While in his seat.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that.
Yeah. So there's a council of people behind, like, you know, that voted for him to be there.
No, I know it's often misunderstood too, but I'm saying a lot of Protestants object to that. They object to transubstantiation. They don't, they don't want to believe that that transformation takes place, and
let me just appeal to some embarrassment. So there was a time where this position was so hidden and so sacred that an actual woman was a pope, and found out that she was a woman. So for the time after, they designed this chair where every pope that was in, they would have a boy come in and check to see if he was a man. You know, stick his hand, and then the boy would, say, yeah, it's a man. They had this practice that went on for so long. And there's others too. There was a time where there was no pope, and they wanted one person to be the pope, and he didn't want to be the pope. And the moment he became pope, he made the rule that if a pope doesn't want to be the pope, he can leave his seat.
Yeah, you had a time with three popes, and then you had a pope that killed someone else who was saying he wanted to be pope or something. It's pretty wild.
So I accept the good with the bad. I mean, systems probably are failed.
Well, Megatron, do you? I don't know if you want to do this, but
they're at least reformed now.
Do you want to explain transubstantiation in case there's people that don't know what it is?
It's just to read. Just read John 6:51-58. That's it right there.
Right, and some Protestants say
the language is too tough. If the language is tough, then you should just walk away from Christ.
Right, and what some Protestants say is that that's all symbolic, not real.
A literary device.
That's what some Protestants maintain.
Right.
Catholics reject that?
for their metaphysical, theological, rational reasons.
Yeah, they claim that the bread and wine become the body.
Right, the Catholics are big on that one. They don't want you to say that it's just bread and wine.
Because then now, like, you're taking away his real. So, in other words, then before you know it, we're just going to go right back to the
It's just a meal.
Docetism.
The concern is that it's just a meal.
The Protestants started doing it once a week. Now they do it once a month. Now they do it twice a year. Now they only do it in Christmas and Easter. It's just becoming. It just becomes.
They're not a fan of your ritual.
Of the ritual.
Yeah, meaning similar to how
1,500 years it's tradition.
Okay, so is Judaism. Similar to how if a Jew came to you with side blocks and tzitzis, you would ask him to cut them both off. The Protestant feels uncomfortable with the rituals of your church.
But that part would just be trying to identify what it would be to be a Christian. That's all that's saying.
I mean, it is a ritual, and you're like criticizing them for being lax in their performance of works in your
the works to be
ritual.
a Jew is way more difficult than it is to be a Christian. It's easier to be a Christian than
That's fine. I'm simply highlighting that within Christian ideology, a rejection of ritual as a mindset, specifically because salvation comes through, the hard and alternative means. How could you expect a Christian of a different era to always accept the rituals of Catholicism? I'm not shocked at all that there are Christians that object to the ritual of Catholics.
Yeah, but I think the Catholics are saying it's more than just a rejection of the ritual. They're saying that there is some mystery where there's a miracle performed. And
there's something special happens. Protestants object.
And they're saying the Protestants are rejecting the reality of that miracle.
The whole point of me saying the things with the tassels was I didn't want to identify a heresy. I wanted to identify a Christian and what in.
It's perfectly fine. And all I'm highlighting is that the discomfort of the rituals of a different culture are the same objections that the Protestants are lodging against the Catholics when it comes to communion. Aside from the metaphysical argument about transubstantiation and what God does and does not do.
Well, I'm not expecting you to. Well, if you want to read the New Testament, I guess you could just read all the rabbinical writings about the Messiah. I mean, they have.
I don't want to read the New Testament. The Protestants. I'm simply highlighting that the Protestants come out with a different conclusion from the church.
All the conclusions of the prophecy of the Messiah are basically almost the writing style. The idea is all Pauline and New Testament.
Let me sort of put it this way:
language.
Is it plausible? Is it plausible for Jesus to have started a church and died in the amazing sin? Right, the works are written, and then that is the production. Every Christian later that attaches to that takes or leaves whether the Catholic's interpretation is the correct Christian interpretation. Right, there's still individuals choosing whether to go to the Eastern Orthodox or the Catholics. Or the Protestants or the Anglicans, right? Each individual Christian is still interpreting the lessons. They're just arguing that the Catholics are wrong and they're growing in number, that they disagree.
Correct. The Catholic Church leaves its door open. Anybody could come and do communion. I'm not like the Eastern Orthodox. They would notice that they would ask you, and then if you are a Catholic, you can't receive it in the church. The Catholic Church.
I thought the church makes you be in a state of grace.
I mean, if you're really open,
you have to confess first.
Yeah, but if you walk in, Eastern Orthodox a little different when it comes to.
Yeah, so I have to tell you that the Jewish understanding of Messiah doesn't fit at all in the New Testament writing. Like it's so far, even the term Messiah.
I understand what they say. But
the writings don't match up at all. I've read both. It doesn't get any.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll post a book for you. I'll put it in the chat, and you tell me if this is any understanding of them, these writers reading the New Testament.
Well, yeah, I'd be able to read an entire book right now, but I could take it down.
So, Mayor, I didn't quite understand your position. What are you saying doesn't match up with what?
The understanding of what Messiah is and what Messiah does. Even the term Messiah is wrong to be used. The term Mashiach means the anointed one, and that term didn't come into place until after the destruction of the temple, because the next anointed king will be the final king.
So you're saying so if I understand you, you're saying the understanding of Messiah is different from Jews to Christians? Is that
totally off that you can't even
deal with
it.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong about that.
Okay. I'm saying if you can't even read the two side by side without knowing.
That's what a lot of Christians actually have been doing, because Jesus was Jewish and so was Paul and so was many of the disciples.
The fact that they were Jewish doesn't change.
They were the ones who wrote these things too.
Yeah, but
so we look at the time.
Well, the fact that they were Jewish doesn't change anything I'm saying. They were Jewish, but their concept was not Jewish. That's why they were rejected by Jews, because they didn't fit into the model at all. Not only that, the words being used
Who decided that?
Mayor, I'm not sure that that's true. I
decided that. Look at history.
I think it's true for Paul, but I don't know that it's true for Jesus.
It's really true for Jesus.
How do you mean?
What the Messiah does not fit into the concept at all. Now you listen, if you want to take the Christian view and go into Old Testament writing and say that this is what it meant, that's what it meant, you can go line by line and talk about it. If you want to take it conceptually, it's completely foreign. The Christian idea is that there's some entity called Messiah that's going to come and do stuff. The Jewish idea is God's going to save the people himself and anoint a new king, and he will be the anointed one. Yeah, that term anointed one only came into term after the destruction of the temple, and the next anointed king will be the final king. So this idea that morphed into the term Messiah. Even the term Messiah doesn't work.
Sounds like Christianity had something to do with that.
Had something to do with
no. The Jews had an idea of Messiah before Christianity.
Something to do with what?
Well, your whole idea. They would have to stamp their approval, because before that there probably wasn't a complete canon. But now, since Christianity is on the rise, and they're using the same text to come to this conclusion, the rabbinical Jews are identifying heresy.
Well, Probable is doing a lot of work there, and there was a
no, we have the evidence. There's evidence of this. There's trifo.
What you have evidence of is that Christians said something, Jews rejected it, Constantine took it, and now you're claiming that the Jews really accepted
Constantine. You probably don't understand what I'm saying. That's probably why. Can't believe you mentioned Constantine. That came much later.
Exactly, and that's what. And Christianity didn't take off until then. According to your story, let's go through your story. Who in Judea rejected Jesus as being the Messiah?
Who was it?
It's a great question. Maybe it was just a small movement. It was just possibly a small movement of people.
A small movement? There was like a crowd that didn't like him?
There was.
There was no rabbi? No one with a name? Like, what about Josephus? A Kohen somewhere?
I just want to discount him as much as possible and just call him this criminal that was espousing blasphemy and was put to death. We don't even have to go into what his movement was. We could just say this guy that people wanted dead. Why did they want to get rid of him?
You said it.
I'm not being dishonest. I'm reducing him. If you want me to.
Who wanted him dead? Give us a name.
And deify him.
Who tried to kill him? Who issued a verdict?
That with pleasure.
Well, you said in this conversation multiple times the Pharisees, right? So you agree that the Pharisees did not accept Jesus' teaching?
I said he was refuting the claims of their traditions. Yes.
Okay. And the Pharisees rejected it. Now let's analyze what Pharisees are. First of all, the term Pharisees comes from the Hebrew word pirusha. They were the ones explaining the text as opposed to
interpreters,
translators,
commentators,
as opposed to the Sadducees that were taking the text at face value.
Text only. Quranists, you can think of them.
Well,
Josephus says that the Pharisees were the
literalists. There you go.
The vast majority of the state were Pharisees. The Pharisees were the ones following the learned class, the rabbinic class, and they wholesale rejected it. That's your story. Then that could take until Paul started selling to Gentiles. It did not take off in Judea amongst the Pharisees. It took off a little bit amongst criminals and more amongst the Sadducees, which was the elite class who studied in Rome. They were Roman. They were Jews, but they subscribed to the Roman Empire.
They were secular. At first they were Hellenized, then they were Romanized. They just wanted to interact. They were cosmopolitan city dwellers.
And up until Constantine, it became a global religion. It was not accepted by Jews for generations. I'm not saying anything outside of your story. This is your story, exactly.
Yeah, you're claiming the Jews were not interested, but you're also claiming the Jews consigned to death, and I'm not sure who you're naming there.
And then when I'm showing you that the ideologies don't line up, like, no, it really does.
Pontius Pilate isn't Jewish. From his characterization.
One was on the cross.
Barth.
We don't know.
Barth.
They don't know. There's another story.
Many people were crucified, Barth. He wasn't the only kid crucified, Barth. Just slow down.
Which one is it? Why even
My
write this
question is, if Jesus was either condemned or accepted, how does that explain Josephus treating him literally as a footnote?
Once again, Megatron, the point is he's not written it. He's written it by Christian writings, and Jews only respond to it when challenged by Christians. It's not
no Christian. There was no Christian then.
This is beautiful. This is like the beginning of the year. Megatron's rooms have finally fallen. A month of non-stop 24/7 rooms. Megatron here is getting beat up by 2 Orthodox Jews. Oh, this is beautiful. And Megatron's all stressed out at work. He's got to work on New Year's Day. He's got his hammer and his nail gun in hand, and he's sitting here defending the Most High.
Are more relevant.
The Eastern were not that relevant, and it could be Jesus had a stint with the Eastern, but they weren't. They were pretty small and they killed themselves out.
Also, Zen, I've got McZed on recording projecting some terrible guilt and shame that he has about something that he did. I don't know what it was. Could be, could be something. Could be something.
He's a footnote.
He's just a footnote. Exactly.
No, and
then all of a sudden,
the Jews don't bring up Jesus.
After the destruction of the Second Temple,
this is funny.
Yeah. There has to be a conversation to be had as to what is logos.
What is what?
Logos. What does that mean?
But that conversation was had well before.
No, ask them. Ask them.
That conversation was had well before the destruction.
So now there's Jews in the synagogues that believe in Jesus, and now in the synagogues they're identifying what it is to not believe in Jesus.
That was before the
destruction. Now these people stopped going to, then they stopped going. Okay, so then they were Jews because Jesus is he's not important. Remember. I don't know why you're mentioning about this small cult of people.
We're gonna jump out of here soon and read a book.
Died. They don't know his name.
1 second.
So if they keep bringing him up, then he must be important to the Jews. The Jews
keeps bringing him up. Okay, so you can't
Jews. It's just these non-significant people. This is what I mean. Like, what did Jews do that made them have a conversation about him? That's the question.
Again, the conversation was barely had up until Christianity became ubiquitous and Jews lived amongst them. This is you can rewrite history if you want, but you have to respond to what I'm saying. When I was telling you that at the time of Jesus, which was 40 years before the destruction of the temple, there was a group of people that followed him, and they were very small and very insignificant, based on your own writings. That's what you claim. Then after the destruction, when the Sanhedrin moved to Yahweh,